Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Kambrium, Synthetic Era, out July 9th on Reaper Entertainment Europe. This album has 12 tracks, 69 minutes in length, and this is the band's fifth full-length studio album. They are a German epic metal band. Now, this album is a concept record, nothing new to the band. It talks about a dystopian future where a divided society fights amongst itself. Not that far off from where we currently sit, so it's an interesting look at perhaps the future, but with some glimpses into the present. Now, as far as the overall structure and creation of this album is concerned, I really like how they put it all together. Starting off with Neon Death, an instrumental track that really leads you into the record, and then it bleeds into the following track, Cybernetic Overload. Then you have in the middle of the record a full-on instrumental epic song that really breaks the record into two, into side A and side B, and that is To the Core. And then it finishes off with After It All. These songs are really important to be exactly where they are in order for the overall structure of the album to be as strong as it is, to feel as robust as it does, and to make the overall album and concept feel complete across every single stage of this record. A record that has incredible fluidity, incredible playability, ups and downs, very dynamic, a very engaging album that you really feel connected to it from the first song all the way to the last, never really wanting to get off of this ride until the story, until the overall album is completely done. Once you get into the sound, this is an epic sounding record. I love a lot of the elements that really have a predominant role in the overall experience of this album, but when you look at the overall soundscape, you just have to really glance over the fact that this is an album that doesn't feel thin, that doesn't feel flat, that has a lot of life, has a lot of depth, has a lot of layers to it, and because of that, it really has this cinematic feel all the way through, and that cinematic feel really makes the album feel epic, big, robust. It just has a big experience, and it just really gives you a sense of volume, not necessarily of heaviness, but just volume coming at you with every single song, both musically and vocally. Within that soundscape, there are, in my opinion, a couple of elements that really outshine everything else and that have a very important role in that epic sound of the album, and that is the keyboards and the guitars. I really like the keyboards on this record. I like the fact that they're not only setting the atmosphere of the album, they really allow you to feel like you're in that dystopian future, but they also help the drive, they also help the overall experience. They're doing more than just creating atmosphere, they're doing more than just becoming a catalyst for the melody of the album. They're really intertwining with everything else and becoming part of the overall DNA that this record has to offer. So I really enjoyed the sound, the execution, and how they were placed, and how they allow them to come into the forefront, drop into the background, not necessarily having a designated role on every single song that would start to perhaps feel a little bit redundant across all 12 tracks. The other element is the guitars, perhaps a little bit more diverse, really pushing the envelope, really pushing the direction of the tracks, and really giving each song perhaps a little bit of its own fingerprint. While the keyboards change or give different momentums to the songs depending on where you are within this record, I felt that overall they were balanced in what you're going to get out of them across all 12 tracks. The guitars don't feel as balanced, and that is not a bad thing. It just means that they're a little bit more diverse in their purpose, diverse in their approach, and you're really going to get a different sensation from them depending on where the songs are going and depending on what the theme of the tracks are. The solo sections on this album are really incredible. I really like what they did there, allowing the solos to just open up the songs, let the air come in, let the sun shine, and just give them a little bit of extra life, give the songs a little bit of extra room to breathe. I felt that was really important for an album that it's super layered, that has so many things for you to digest as a listener, musically and vocally, to have the solos allow the album to breathe, or allow the songs to breathe, and give them a sense of simplicity even though the solos feel still a little bit complex, was an important element that really gave you a chance to catch a little bit of a break, or at least give you a sense of relaxation before you move on into more dynamic, into more engaging parts of the track. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this record. The drums play a role, but I didn't feel like the drums on this album played a very predominant role that you really gravitate towards them as one of the cornerstones or one of the pillars of this record. I like the sound that they have, I like the substance that they provide in terms of heaviness or grounding the album, but because this album is so thick in sound and has different layers coming at you, they almost get mingled into the overall sound experience, and sometimes it's really hard to determine exactly the impact that they're having on the record, because just so many things for you to process at the same time. Once you get into the vocals, I love the harsh and the clean vocals, the dynamic between the two, how they intertwine and how they balance out this album perfectly. Because sound-wise, this is a record that really merges heaviness, power, strength, progression. There's a lot of things happening from a musical side, and you want to balance that out as properly as you can on a vocal side, and having clean and harsh vocals and allowing them to just weave themselves together at times, and sometimes separate them, but never really putting them on different lanes. They always feel like they're working together, pushing you towards the same end result, towards the same goal, is a really important aspect to really allow the album to feel perhaps more cohesive, to feel a little bit better grounded, more complete. And I just love the sound, I love the approach, I love the tone. Specifically coming out of the clean vocals, really sets the tone and sets the table for what the harsh vocals are doing, adding a little bit more heaviness, adding a little bit more drive, adding a little bit more intensity, and then the clean vocals coming in and bringing not only melody but a little bit of darkness. This is an album that has a lot of melody, but that melody also brings darkness to the forefront, a very interesting aspect, and I felt more often than not you're going to get that from the balance that you have of the two vocal styles throughout the whole record. Overall, this is my favorite Kambrium album to date. I feel like it's the most complete. I hate using the word mature, but it really feels like it's an album that they finally got to the point where they understand themselves, they understand their sound and what they can do, their limitations, and work around those same limitations while still pushing the envelope ever so slightly. So it's an album that just really feels like they're reaching that pinnacle of their existence as a band. So because of that, I really feel like this is their strongest album to date. Having said that, this is also their longest album to date, and that to me is the only downside of this record. I feel like the album goes a little bit too long. It stretches itself out too much, becomes a little bit thin, and you start to feel a little bit watered down as you progress down the line with the record. So I think they have to reevaluate the length of their albums, because this one is at 69 minutes. I really feel like you have to reevaluate the length of the album. You need to keep the listener engaged, and let's face the facts, everybody has short attention span. So condensing the album into a shorter period, I think would give more life, and it would increase the overall playability of the record. But like I said, this is still their best album to date, in my opinion. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Shadow, Construct. Heavy driven opening on this song, musically and vocally. The blend of clean vocals and harsh vocals just works phenomenally across this track. I just love the sound that it has. I love how it feels. It really increases the overall footprint of the song. Musically, this is a track that has a lot of power, a lot of heaviness, a lot of strength, but the combination of the two styles of vocals really allows the song to feel a little bit better constructed, and it feels a little bit better to your ears as you progress through it. The keyboards bring this Stranger Things vibe to the song, and this is true not just of this track, but overall. That cinematic sci-fi feel really comes from that style of experience, that sci-fi style of experience, and it's really predominant on this song, but you're going to really see it coming across all 12 tracks. I don't think you can get away from it. Now, this is a track that overall, when you get to the end of it, it just feels very robust, it just feels very together. One of the stronger songs on the album, and one of the opening tracks, if you will, of the record. Next is Creator of Dreams. Love the intro on this song. It really allows the melody of the guitar to set the table, to set the tone. Instead of starting off with the keyboards or more with the symphonic element, you're starting off with the guitars, giving the listener something else to process at the opening of a song. I like that idea, I like that construction. Again, great balance between clean and harsh vocals, really giving the overall song a lot of thickness. They even add thickness to the overall soundscape, not just to the vocal performance, but to the soundscape itself, making the overall song feel bigger, like it's expanding, like it's getting larger and larger. The guitar solo on this track is outstanding. My favorite guitar solo on the album. That solo section is just incredible. Once again, going back to what I said earlier, really allowing the air to come in, allowing the light to come in, allowing the song to breathe. That's something that I felt throughout this record, but on this song with this solo really became noticeable to me. Incredible melody, but at the same time a lot of darkness with this track. Something that I also noticed throughout the record, that the melody of this album brings an underbelly of darkness with it. And this song, I think you can feel it a little bit better. Last but not least, Holographic Satisfaction. Great synth opening. Here we go, starting with a different element. In the previous track was the guitar. Here is the synth. So I really like this changing in elements while using the same elements from track to track. Changing where you're using them gives you a different perception of the track. It doesn't make the album feel as redundant. Then the drums are just magnificent, really heavy. You really feel, I think this is one of the songs where you really feel the drums taking center stage, a little bit of more power, a little bit more heaviness. The guitars start to guide your journey all the way through. The keyboard sounds still magnificent, still adding that sci-fi element, that Stranger Things vibe, really elevating the perception that you have of this track. The song starts to really levitate off the ground, even though it still has a lot of heaviness coming from the drums and even from the guitars. The vocal showcase, once again, really combines the strength of the record, but the strength that they have in having those two different vocal approaches to make the song feel heavy and melodic at the same time. This is it. This is Kambrium with Synthetic Era, out July 9th on Reaper Entertainment. And if everything that I just said now is not enough to convince you, I have a little bit of a guest appearance on one of the tracks as the narrator. So for that alone, this album is worth purchasing. I'll see you in the comment section, and we'll see you in the next video.